we thought we'd do a little bit of light relief, perhaps.
Yes.
Talk about the fight between Mary Beard and tech billionaires.
Can we properly... Sorry,
anyone who doesn't know who Mary Beard is.
Well, I was going to say, can we properly frame and contextualise this? Because as I understand it from Mary Beard's social media posting, she is the sole scholar on the Roman Empire. She's the only person who knows anything.
Anyone who might not know, Mary Beard is a famous classicist
and feminist
and ancient historian. She's so much so talks a historian that talks about the ancient world, particularly the Roman world. And she's the darling of TV producers, the corporate TV. So you'll see her on BBC and things all the time.
She's a radical leftist.
And she's a complete femtard. Yeah. Well, what I would describe her as is not a historian. She's an activist. She's a leftist activist, promoted, put front and centre to subvert and often pervert the narrative of history in all sorts of ways.
That's just your patriarchal view, because I follow Mary Beard on Twitter, and all I get from her is that 0 other people understand Rome like she does.
Right.
So she's the one authority on all of this, and everyone is wrong about everything they've ever said.
Oh, she's extremely smug and conceited, on top of everything
shocking.
else. Yeah, extremely so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because I did ancient history at undergrad and been in and around it a bit, And like a lot of things, when people think they're an expert on something, they often get, it's hard not to almost become a little bit conceited about it. You have to be very careful not to. For example, someone like Stelios, who's got a PhD in philosophy, is very, very down to earth.
Yeah, he doesn't say that other people don't understand philosophy.
Yeah, right. But a lot of academics do get like that. And I've noticed that, particularly in humanities, often it's the case. Now, I've got, my background is in history. I've got a lot of respect for people that have done maths or physics or even chemistry, things like that. Because they can actually, well, I think so anyway, they can legitimately say to people, look, you haven't even got an A level in maths. You haven't even got an undergrad in physics. I'm going to have to say, I know better than you on this one. I'm going to have to pull that card. When it comes to history, though, anyone can read Plutarch's account of Sulla's life. It doesn't even take that long. It will take you about 3 hours. It'll take you 1 hour.
You should read it. It's really good.
You should read it,
It's really interesting. Sorry, Karen.
So for one example, she's having a pop at Elon and also Zuckerberg. That she also is trying to cuck the Zuck. But particularly Elon, that he dare have an opinion on Rome, which isn't exactly in line with hers. Yep. Like she said something like he's got odd views about Sulla. And it's like, he's probably read Plutarch, though. Yeah. So his view is completely legit. It's as good as yours. Here's the other thing, a little secret to give away about ancient history. There's not that much to it. It's like it's way easier to get an undergrad degree in ancient history or classical studies than it is in modern history. You can read all the source material, or nearly all the source material, in a few weeks, if you really tried. A few months, tops.
You can read it for fun. It's interesting.
Like, for example, Sulla. You've got the life of Sulla by Plutarch. You've got some bits in Appian. You've got a bit here and there, like some letters of Cicero might mention it, or something in Caesar might mention Sulla. The odd bit of there, like Pliny might mention Sulla once or twice here or there. You can read everything there is to read in Sulla from the primary sources in a day, easily. But she knows everything about it and all her views are correct and Elon's aren't, or anyone else's for that matter.
For some reason, Elon's not allowed his opinion on this.
No, because look how smug she is. And it's really, it is really funny. Well, Zuckerberg had commissioned if you want to move on to that link, had commissioned a statue to look like his wife.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think it's a disgusting statue, but nonetheless, he said that it was bringing back the Roman tradition of making statues of your wife. Okay. And she tried to sort of have a pop at him, saying, "Oh, that's not in the Roman style." Obviously, obviously it's not.
Her critique was even more tepid than that. It was like, well, there are actually very few statues of women in ancient Rome. Yeah, but the ones we have are of the wives of the senators. Like, that's...
There's loads of statues of women. So this is the other thing. This is the other thing she does. And I wrote an article...
Proportionally, maybe, then, but...
I wrote an article about Beard... ages ago now, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I called it Mary Beard's Absurd Cherry Picking. And in that article, when is it from? 2021. Yeah, so a while ago. In fact, you asked me, you said, she's come out with this book. little pamphlet. It's more of a pamphlet, really. And it was about women in history. Of course it was.
Yeah, I read it.
Because that's all she cares about, really. And she did some of the most absurd cherry picking I've ever heard of. For example, in the Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey, there's a bit where Telemachus, Odysseus' son, says to Penelope, his mum, and Odysseus' wife, at one point she says something or other, and he basically says, pipe down, shh, the men are talking, right? Basically is what happens. And she goes off on one going, this is how men treat women, this is how women have always been treated through history, women's voices have always been subject to oppression, blah, 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 blah. It's just, she cherry-picked one thing. And I just listed loads and loads of women from history. If you scroll down a bit, at some point, I can't remember the list of women I made. Can you scroll down a bit? Yeah. There's somewhere where I mention just a whole bunch of women's names from well, I can't be bothered. There's so many examples of important women from history. So many.
It's from Rome alone.
Right.
But she's looking at this proportionally. She's saying, well, most of them were men. Is that okay, so? What do you want us to do about that?
Yeah. There's been lots of
Rome
empresses.
Wasn't feminist?
And not just in the Roman world. I'm thinking of Theodora. There's been many female czars, many queens of England. So the idea, but she tries to argue that they've never been listened to. Women have never had political voices. So anyway, that's just one example of how she's not really a historian in any real sense, in any objective sense. She's a political activist, a feminist. Can you scroll down a bit more? I've made some notes. If I quote from myself, real quick, again, that's a classic historian thing to do. Put your own book on the reading list. Get the undergrads to read your stuff. Can you scroll up slightly? There you go. So I called her corporate TV's most beloved historian a national embarrassment, Mary Beard. I call her national embarrassment over and over and over again. That's what she is to me. She's not actually a historian in any meaningful sense. She's an activist partisan. She's a quasi-deranged crypto-communist boomer shill, hand-picked and sent to pervert and subvert decent society. She is in a number of ways the very antithesis of a historian. I go on to say that's not hyperbole there, because what she's doing, it's not just for a laugh. Yeah. It's not just funny. It's not just because she's got a chip on her shoulder about being a woman, which is what it largely is. But it's much, much more than that, isn't it? So it's to say that your Western culture, your whole civilization, your history and your heritage is bad and wrong. Or what a despicable, disgusting thing to be involved in and do, and yet call yourself a historian.
Well, it doesn't live up to the liberal ideals. It's like, no, why would the Roman Empire live up to liberal ideals?
Yeah, why on earth would it?
It's ridiculous. But like, what specific sort of claims is she making about Elon Musk exactly? Because I'm curious about, like, because she just says over and over, well, they don't understand Roman history. It's like, okay, why?
Yeah.
Explain your, she's like, I'm a professor of classics. I don't think Elon Musk understands Roman history. It's like, okay, but that's not enough. You need to explain why. But she doesn't.
He can, well done, you've read Suetonius and Tacitus like anyone else can in a day. But well done, Mary.
But even then, like, she's not making any actual claims or specific claims about what Elon Musk has said that's wrong.
Yeah, she'll just say it's just a wrong-headed view, or it's just an odd take on Sulla or something. Yeah. I make the point here that she, the culture war extends to not just sort of TV and film and the news cycle, but history itself. What we're allowed to think history was, revisionism. Actually, there was loads more transgenderism and gayness and crypto-communism in the ancient world. Actually, that was what was going on the whole time, didn't you know?
Well, one thing I dislike about Beard, and she's this thread that she retweeted, this one. She retweeted this. Obviously, she endorses it. And what I hate about this is the debunking view of the world, which I really, really get frustrated by, because it doesn't actually answer any questions, right? First issue, tradition. Yeah, the Roman wives had statues made of them. Okay, well, there we go. Right, you've conceded the entire argument. Like, Mark Zuckerberg was like, oh, Romans made statues of their wives. Yeah, Romans made statues of their wives. Okay, Miss Beard, or Professor Beard, like, why did you retweet this? Like, but she says, there's a noted exception, Hadrian's statues of Antoninus. Okay, Hadrian was gay. So what? What's the point? Did Romans make statues of their wives or not? You've already admitted they did. So what? Was it an act of devotion? So what do you mean? Because Hadrian made the statue of Antoninus, then Romans weren't devoted to their wives because they made statues of them. It's nonsense. This again, like trying to insert like cracks in the argument where cracks just don't exist.
Yeah. Cherry picking.
But it's worse than cherry picking. What they're trying to do here is cast doubt on the fact that Roman men made statues of their wives. Why would you make a statue of your wife? Because you love her, obviously. And, well, I mean, Hadrian made a statue of Antoninus. Well, Hadrian loved Antoninus. What do you want from me? You know, like, how does that change anything about what the other Roman men are doing with their wives? Nothing. You know, but in general, statues of wives would show off dynasty, show off wealth through public munificence, or for funerary purposes, or showcasing Roman virtues. Yeah, okay. That's not a debunk. Yeah. That doesn't debunk anything.
Yeah, Zuckerberg didn't say reviving that tradition, of which there were very few. Yeah. He didn't say that.
To oppress women or something. Anyway.
Yeah.
I hate the framing, because what they're doing is confirming everything that Zuckerberg has just said. Romans used to make statues of their wives. And framing it as if he is completely wrong, which is just not true. You've admitted that he's right.
The job of a serious historian is just to attempt to get to objective historical facts. Now, that's not possible. The past is profoundly lost to us. It's very, very difficult to agree on any sort of objective truth in the present. So in the past, it's always difficult, and historians you'll always end up with a story or a narrative rather than a definitive truth. However, that is the job of the scholar, of the serious historian, is to try and be as objective as possible and just get to the truth. So by that criteria, Beard absolutely fails. Because all she's doing really is trying to present a particular partisan narrative.
Well, that's the point. She's trying to debunk like anything that the right-wing men have set up as they've extracted a certain selection of facts to present a narrative that they feel is the spirit of the thing, and they're like, well, no, I mean, all the facts are correct, but we disagree with the interpretation. It's like, who cares what you agree or disagree with?
Yeah.
Like, your interpretation is, I mean, look at the kind of person who's doing the interpreting. You know, it's like, sorry, like, no.
And plus, her takes on Rome aren't particularly brilliant anyway. I remember watching a programme of hers about Caligula, where she insisted that Caligula's memory had been is completely unfair, that he probably was nowhere near as bad. Now that's many historians, many scholars have said that sort of thing, and there's probably an element of it which is correct, that probably for political purposes after his death is but she went so far with it where she's sort of contradicting what not Tacitus so much, because the Caligula bit of Tacitus is largely missing, but what Suetonius and other people say about him, it's just not right. And it's like, oh, you know better than Suetonius, do you?
Wasn't Suetonius living through the period?
A bit after.
Is it slightly after?
Yeah.
Which one was it who literally couldn't write what they wanted to write about Caligula? Well, they were living under his tyranny. I can't remember.
No, well, there's Tacitus was living under the tyranny of Domitian.
Right.
And so he couldn't really write what he wanted to about Domitian during Domitian's reign, but then afterwards could. And Domitian is like a slightly lesser insane version of Caligula. Actually, quite a lot less insane. We did an Epochs on Domitian and Caligula, actually. Check out Epochs. Sign up to lotuseaters.com. Click on the history tab, Epochs. You'll find me and Carl, a few hundred hours of me and Carl talking about history. Anyway, so I say that... Sorry?
For the sake of time.
Yeah, okay. So I said of her that she's parachuted onto TV because she's an arch-feminist and a committed leftist devotee. They could have picked any historian to make sort of the darling of TV history, but they picked this one because she's a shill for globalism
because she'll write
and
blog posts
leftism.
like this.
Yeah. And that she's the very embodiment, this is me speaking again, of a particular stripe of super cringe feminism, the type of a Germaine Greer-esque come woman's hour semi-hysterical man-hating nonsense. And that's exactly what it is. I stand by that. It's not real history. You're having a slanted, weirdo take on history presented to you. Be very, very suspicious of her. I say it's not the behaviour of a serious historian committed to the pursuit of truth. She's an agent of partiality, a creature spawned of deceit and lies, a type of modern witch.
If you look at this blog post, like, there's not, like, it's what, six paragraphs long?
Yeah, scroll up a bit more. She says there, he's got a strange admiration for Sulla.
Why would...
Says who?
Well, I think is a very sensible admiration for Sulla, because Sulla was a very admirable leader.
Well, other than the extrajudicial killings, but yeah, he got the job done at least, didn't he? He brought order back to Rome at least.
No friend served me or enemy wronged me. Okay?
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
He did win,
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose.
Well, he never lost a battle. He completely won the Roman Civil War. He was obviously a very competent leader. He was just exceptionally ruthless.
Yeah.
But again,
Wasn't a mass murderer, but
yeah, well, I can name a Roman general that wasn't a mass murderer.
Pompey. Actually, he was.
Yeah, he was a mass murderer.
Fabius.
That's only
He's meant to be a good one, Fabius.
Well, that's only because he never left bloody Italy, But like, if he left Italy, he would have done the same. They all just sacked cities and killed thousands of people. Like, they're all mental. But like, if you look at the, I love the Pompey. It's like no.
Yeah, no, he
brought
killed
that.
all sorts of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, all sorts of people.
But look at the content of this blog post. This is just me versus the tech billionaires.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but what are you actually saying here? Like nothing.
It's the classic thing of, I am a tenured professor at Cambridge, don't you know? And even though we've read exactly the same thing, you need to be quiet.
Yeah. But like, there's just no content to this.
It's like that thing where I said about maths and physics. One person that's actually studied it and done the reading and understands equations properly, and someone that doesn't. Yeah, the person can pull that card saying, look, you don't actually know what you're talking about.
I would never debate maths with James Lindsay.
Right, yeah. I wouldn't say to Professor Penrose, actually, I think those equations you did back in the 70s that you won a prize for, actually, I think you were wrong. That would be insane, right? But when there's a small amount of reading that anyone can do, and then you've got as much knowledge as anyone else, really.
But that's the point, isn't it? For her, it's about the interpretation. She's not challenging the facts of the thing. And even in the debunking thread that she retweets, they're not challenging the facts of the thing. They just don't like the way you view these facts.
Could you scroll down a tiny bit more on this, and I'll finish up. So the last thing I said about her is that, she's nakedly a structuralist, or a post-structuralist, or one of those weird types of some manner of grotesque leftist claptrap revisionist nonsense. That's what she is. And ultimately, these people, they're at war with history. They're at war with the truth and with heritage, your heritage, Western culture and civilization. That they're there to undermine it and replace it with some crazy feminist dystopia.
Yeah, 100%. Her entire philosophy on history is to show how it wasn't liberal and how we shouldn't want to emulate it, how you can't take any good examples from the Roman Empire, how you can't draw any virtues from any of its leaders. It's like, okay, but I don't agree with you because I'm not an insane feminist, so shut up.
All your ancestors were evil people.
Yeah, that's literally their position, yeah.
I'd say, I would urge all unassuming television viewers to be suspicious of Mary Beard. Though she seems like a harmless storyteller, a mildly obnoxious Karen at best, she is in fact a pernicious snake. She is an example par excellence of a useful idiot, a purveyor of leftist filth, a vehicle for subversion and endless folly. She's certainly not in any meaningful sense a historian. She's an anti-historian, interested less in truth and more in grinding her moronic axe. History takes a back seat to partisan leftist activism, and her cherry-picking of history is a crime of the most revolting type. I stand by that. And Mary Beard on Twitter if you want to come at me, bro.
Hi folks, thanks for watching. If you'd like to support us, help us keep the lights on, make sure that we have a job tomorrow, go over to lotus.com and £5 a month, sign up and go and watch Bo's history series Epochs. In this particular episode, he is discussing with the amazing Godfrey Bloom the history of money, which is something that, frankly, nobody knows enough about. And while you're checking us out, go over to X, formerly known as Twitter, and follow us at lotuseaters_com.